Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report, and The Athletic released their 53-man roster projection. So coming up on today's show, I'm going to talk about their 53-man roster projection that they put together. On top of that, I'm also going to give you some of my biggest takeaways and analysis because they kept some players that I personally did not keep in my 53-man. They also cut some players that I don't think that the Raiders are going to end up cutting. We're going to talk about a lot of different topics from this 53-man roster projection, but I like doing these videos because it gives you guys another idea of what somebody else is thinking and then what I think about what somebody else is thinking. So important dates to know since we're talking about just making cuts, making some moves. The NFL just announced in the last 24 hours that roster cut downs, you got to get down to 53 players by August 27th at 4 p.m. Eastern time. So that's going to be a Tuesday. Luckily for you, we're going to be live for exactly when the Raiders decide to announce their 53-man roster. As it stands, the Silver and Black have 91 players on their team. They're allowed to get down to 53. Reminder, though, they're going to keep David Ogoa, so technically they're allowed to have 54 players, but because of that International Pathway Program player, you need to get to 53, but you can technically keep David Ogoa on that practice squad. Training camp for the rookies, that begins July 21st. Veterans report July 23rd. This is all important because for the Athletic, they wanted to put out this 53-man right before training camp ended up going down. June is almost over. Also, so is my reign as the #1 channel here at Chat Sports. Not only does it look like we're going to lose a freaking sub-battle to the 49ers report, our Steelers channel now holds the crown for the #1 channel here at Chat Sports. That ticks me off a little bit. I'm not going to lie to you. I've held that crown for about 2 years now. Chugs and I have been dominating. But now we are ranked #2 in the power rankings here at Chat Sports because we lost or losing this sub-battle. I want to get my #1 crown back, and Steelers beat us this month in Super Chats. All I'm saying is help me get my crown back. Help the Raiders Report get its crown back. The nation is undefeated. I like to keep it that way, so make sure that you're subscribed. All right, so here we go. The way that we're going to do this, we're going to go through every single position, and I'm just going to tell you who they ended up keeping, who they ended up cutting. Aidan O'Connell, Gardner Minshew, Anthony Brown. I will admit, when I saw this off the jump, I did find it interesting that the Athletic named Aidan as the starting quarterback, which right now, according to reports, he's the one that has the upper hand. He's the quarterback that does seem like, vocally, a lot of the leaders on the Raiders are kind of pegging him as this, starting quarterback. AP also gave him the upper hand. Chugs is laughing. I don't know if that's the right type of giggity. I do know this, that the Raiders also could keep potentially 2 quarterbacks. They legitimately might only keep Aidan. They might only keep Gardner Minshew, just those 2 guys, figure out what they're going to do on the back end. But Carter Bradley, for me personally, I do think that he makes it over Anthony Brown. Coming up, reminder, if this show ends up getting 500 likes, I'm going to do my own 53-man roster projection. So, if you guys can like this show, if you enjoy the show, if you like what Chugs and I are doing here on the Raiders Report, an easy and free way to just say, hey, Mitch's bosses, I like what they're doing. Click that like button, and if this thing gets 500 likes, I'm going to do my updated version of my 53-man roster because it changes every week. It changes every 2 weeks, and I like to be able to give you guys the content that you're looking for. So please help me out do that by clicking that like button. If we get to 500, I'll drop a vid. All right, let's go now to the running back position. The Athletic ended up keeping 4 RBs. You got White, Mattison, Ameer Abdullah, Dylan Laube. Realistically, I'm not too surprised. These are the 4 backs that I ended up keeping as well. You got Zamir as your main 1-2 back in terms of first and second down. And then I think you're looking at Alexander Mattison, Ameer Abdullah, Dylan Laube all splitting that third down work. On top of that, Laube is probably going to be the one who gets a little bit more of the kick return work. I got to give a shout out to my guy, Graphic Raider. He had an amazing interview with Laube. If you haven't seen it yet, go check it out. It's on his channel. But also, Laube did talk about how he just wants to get on the field. He's going to go out there and get used any way that they possibly want him to be used, whether it's on offense, whether it's on first down, whether it's on special teams. Great interview. And I'm really interested to see what this running back room ends up shaping out to be because I do think it's going to be a battle to watch all offseason long. Something that I also want you guys to keep note of is our sponsors, and if it's not for them, especially in the month of June, they're keeping the lights on around here. And if you Want to light up those thighs? Go to chubbyshorts.com/chat because the good vibrations are something to celebrate. For a limited time, Chubby's is giving our listeners 20% off your order with our exclusive code. Use code CHAT at chubbyshorts.com/chat. I've been wearing their original stretch shorts, which if you're curious of what shorts I am wearing in the picture that you see, it is their 5.5-inch inseam shorts. Also, on this video that I'm here with Chuck personally is a big fan of these shorts as well. These are also the 5.5-inch. I think that they fit my legs really well. If you're somebody who doesn't skip leg day, I personally think that Chubby's is an absolute game changer. Whether you're getting dressed for your workday, a workout, or a weekend getaway, Chubby's has you covered. And for a limited time, Chubby's is giving our viewers 20% off your order with our code CHAT at chubbyshorts.com/chat. That's code CHAT at chubbyshorts.com/chat. Support the Raiders Report. Rock some awesome shorts. Whether you're going to the pool, they also have really comfortable shirts, which is the one that I'm wearing, which are great next to the pool. I've been wearing Chubbies for a very, very long time. I love the fact that they're sponsoring the show, so please go check them out. Those links are going to be available to you all down in the comments and in the description of today's show. All right, here we go. Wide receiver coming up now, and these are the exact same 6 wide receivers that I had in my 53-man. I think when you look at the list, it might not all be all that eye-popping, though. When you actually read the article itself, The Athletic says that Michael Gallup is going to be the backup to Tre Tucker, which, again, Tashawn, I think, is one of the better Raiders beat reporters in the game. I had the opportunity to meet Tashawn out at Media Week for the Super Bowl. Him and I talk here and there. But for him, who's at practice physically, and if he's listing Tre Tucker as the starter over Michael Gallup, I think that's one of those like little things where ESPN puts Michael Gallup as the starter. But most people here in the nation, raise your hand if included, if you're like, Michael Gallup's not a starter. Tre Tucker is going to get more work than Gallup, because that's personally what I think. They didn't give Gallup a lot of money. They gave him a 1-year deal worth up to $3 million. Tre Tucker is going to get more work. So here's even more smoke around Tucker really impressing people. Turner, him making the roster, this smoke continues to grow as well. I know I did a show like 2 months ago saying no way he's going to make the team. Last week I said, you know what, if I had to make a 53-man, he'd probably end up being on it. But for Guyton and Turner, they're going to end up making this team, I think, for special teams reasons. Let's now go to the tight end room because they're only going to keep 3. And I like the fact that they only kept 3 tight ends: Brock Bowers, Michael Mayer, Harrison Bryant. For 12 personnel, it does make me a little bit nervous that how often the Raiders talk about having 12 personnel and you're only going to keep 3 tight ends. Yes, you have 6 on your roster, but I do think when you make a 53-man roster projection, and I encourage every single person that watches this show to honestly do it yourself, of make your own 53. Unfortunately for Gentry, unfortunately for Cole Fotheringham, John Samuel Schnenker, they're not one of the best 53 players we have. And when you create an actual roster, you have to put the best players on the field. And I think one of the reasons why the Raiders also went out and got Harrison Bryant is because they had a plan in place. They knew they could go with 3 tight ends, and that's what they're going to try to do here. At offensive line, they're ended up keeping 9. And Kolton Miller, all the starters, not really too much of a surprise. But the one name that's on here that I think is really going to be a little bit eye-popping for some people is Dalton Wagner. And the reason why that I say that is because from Arkansas, 6'8", 330-pound guy. I know he was injured last season, but Tashawn notes that the Raiders do really like his athletic ability and that he's just like a dominant run. He's a run blocker. Not very good in the pass game, but can be dominant in the run side. Jordan Meredith, I thought, was interesting because if you were to ask me, Mitch, hey, the Raiders are going to keep 9 offensive linemen, who's going to make it? I would say Meredith over somebody like Wagner because of Meredith's past relationship with Luke Getsy, with Champ Kelly, and just being that interior lineman. But there is lots, and I mean lots of versatility on this Raiders offensive line, from their starters and from their backup spots. Keeping only 9 or 8 linemen is the way that the Raiders are going to go because of all the versatility that they have. Coming up here, find out who made it on the defensive side of the football, which, for the Raiders, they ended up keeping 25 players on offense, so they're going to end up keeping 25 players on defense, and you're going to have your 3 special teams guys. But for defense, this is our bread and butter. This is how we're going to win football games this upcoming season. No doubt about it. Before we get into the defense, though, I do want to give a shout-out to some of our new subscribers, and I want to get as many new subs as we possibly can. So to Lario, Zebra, Daddy Dirt and then Brandon Davis. I'm pretty sure Daddy Dirt was Chugs' name before he started working here at Chat Sports. It's definitely him. It's a feet pic. Do you see that? It's literally a picture of his foot with all capital D's. I'll tell you what, Daddy Dirt, you're doing some weird work down there. The Lord's work. You know the girl, the Haktua girl? He's telling her to spit on that thing right there. If you want to see your picture, your name up here on the show, hit that subscribe button. Have a little bit of fun here on the show. All right, let's go to the defensive side of the football. No more feet picks, I promise. Matt Crosby, Malcolm Koonce, Tyree Wilson, and then Janarius Robinson. Not too many big surprises here. One player that I will note to at least keep a little bit of an eye on is the UDFA Stone from, I want to say Washington State. So just somebody to keep an eye on. I know that the Raiders also have been talking about Amari Gaynor. Ellerson Smith has been a name that has popped up to me here and there. David Agoa will end up making the team, but that's just because he's the International Pathway Program player, and you can put him on the practice squad because he doesn't count against the roster. Let's now go to the defensive tackle group. This is also a very interesting group because to me, I don't think that the Raiders are only going to keep 5 DTs, and if they do only keep 5 defensive tackles, it's because then they're keeping 5 edge rushers. Like, having only 9 offensive linemen does make me a little bit wary for this team, especially because of how often Patrick Graham, the Raiders like to rotate their big guys, like Wilkins, Jenkins, all these. But the fact that John Jenkins is the player that they put as the starter next to Christian Wilkins, I do think is notable because, you know, we've said Tyree Wilson. We have said Adam Butler. And if Jenkins is the guy, that is very notable to me. I will admit that for this defensive tackle group, it might not matter who starts. It's more about like the team that you're playing, the grouping that they're going up against, where Butler, for me, I would rather have him in a passing situation. I'd rather have John Jenkins in a running situation. But then also Tyree Wilson. He's going to be going back and forth. Matthew Butler getting cut instead of Byron Young and Nesta Jade Silvera, which was also what I predicted in my last 53-man roster. Let's go now to the linebacker group, and I'm not really going to get this one all twisted up either. Not too many big surprises from this group. We all anticipate that they're probably going to keep 5 linebackers, and the reason why they're going to keep 5 is these new kickoff rules. Tom McMahon, Raiders special teams coach, has made it very noticeable of, like, hey, we're a little bit concerned about these new kickoff return rules. And, you know, again, Laube was kind of speaking about it on Graf's show the other day where he was like, the kick return rules, he compared it to being more of a, like, running the football more than actually like catching and receiving like it's been in the past. So if I'm a coach and if I got a guy like Dylan Laube saying, you know, the kickoff return is more close to running the football than being a kick returner, like I would want my linebackers out there in those kick returning jobs to go out there and hit some people, make some tackles, and get a little bit physical. So one of the shows that I might end up doing this off season is just something around like surprise players to make the team, because I do think due to the connections that Darian Butler has with this organization and due to the new kickoff return rules, Darian Butler could be a sneaky player to make the 53-man, kind of like just a few years ago when Isaiah Polomeo made it out of seemingly nowhere. Let's now go to the cornerback group, and the 6 corners that you see up here on screen are the 6 corners that, again, not too many big surprises. The real notable surprise based on the article that was written was more around Jakorian Bennett, because Bennett was listed as the starter over Brandon Facyson. And during the offseason, both Facyson and Bennett, they were splitting a lot of one-on-one reps, and, you know, both players were just getting just some time together. Based off what I understand and based off of what has been reported, this is a very equal tie. I would kind of compare it to like the quarterback battle where some days Minshew was better than Aidan. Some days Aidan was better than Minshew. Exact same thing here with Bennett and Facyson. I don't know who's going to win this battle. It's probably going to be a battle that we don't really truly know who does win it until it's week 1 of the regular season here for the Raiders. So who do you have more confidence in, Jakorian Bennett or Brandon Facyson? Type 0 for Bennett. Type 31 for Brandon Facyson. I also know this is the very first question that I have asked on today's show. So please let me know down below, down in the comments, what your answer is to this. Because for me personally, I would answer it like this. in a game that you're worried of, like if I want to play a team that's going to run the football, if I'm going up against a team that's going to run the football a lot, I'd actually rather have Brandon Faison out there. If I'm going to go up against a team that's throwing the football a lot and they have a lot more speed, I'm probably going to be a little bit more interested to put out Jakorian Bennett. I'll also say if you want to go upside, the correct answer upside is Jakorian. If you want to go safety and you're like, you know what? I don't know if we're going to have the best defense in the NFL, but I don't want to get burnt for a deep touchdown. You go with a physical player like Brandon Faison and mix it in. The easiest way to fix that question, just go out and sign Stephon Gilmore, Xavier Howard. Give us another option at corner, AP and Telesco. Let's now go to the safety room and another very deep and very, very talented group here for the Raiders. And, you know, like we had a super chat question come in earlier of like, why doesn't the media give us a little bit more credit for our secondary? Why doesn't the media show us a little bit more love? And I think it's honestly because they don't know the players and the talent that we have. They also don't know the versatility that Patrick Graham is going to be bringing to this unit. And when you have Epps and Merrick, that's a solid unit. But then on top of that, Isaiah Polameo, Chris Smith, Tre Taylor, I mean, that's a really, really good deep safety group from top to bottom. I am also hoping and praying that I'm going to be able to hang out with Tre Taylor here in the next few weeks. Graf and I have been talking about trying to do a meetup with him down here in Dallas. So if you're down in the Dallas area, we might be able to put out some of those details. But these players here, they're all the ones making it from safety. And then to round this bad boy out, Daniel Carlson, A.J. Cole, Jacob Bobenmoyer from a special team standpoint. No surprises here, but what is surprising about the special team notes that Deshaun Reed put in this article was who's kick returner, who's punt returner, because I do think that that's a position that a lot of us are curious about. Is it going to be Ameer Abdullah? Is it going to be Tre Tucker? Well, guess what? According to Deshaun Reed, the kick returner and punt returner in his 53-man roster, it's this guy right here. Now, I don't know if he was watching Graf's interview. I don't know if he saw the whole breakdown, but maybe he's watching our Madden streams, right? Where Laube's always the kick return man. But I do think that this is an interesting fit. I know Laube's up for the challenge, but putting him at punt and kick returner could give us a good opportunity to see how explosive and athletic and just how much of a gamer this young man truly is. So my biggest takeaways from this 53-man roster that they put together in like the juicy rumors section of it is Dalton Wagner, according to Deshaun Reed, makes the roster. Maybe it's something that we need to look at a little bit closer. Matthew Butler ends up getting cut, which he's somebody that we've been talking about a bunch. Remember, he didn't really practice at all during minicamp. Jakorian Bennett starting over Brandon Faison. Definitely a battle to watch during training camp. Laube is the kick and punt returner. To be honest, if that happens, I'd be curious what they do with Ameer Abdullah. And then 25 players on both offense and defense split down the middle. For me personally, when I have done this, I have done 24 players on offense, 26 on defense, a little bit of a discrepancy. As the season moves on or as the offseason moves on, I will also do videos around like what I think the practice squad could potentially look like. If you enjoyed the show and if you want to give me one of your biggest takeaways, please let me know down in the comments below.